Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cultural Enrichment Wimba session for Anthropology and Sociology. My name is Marie Bellet, your instructor, and today our guest speaker is Laura Harless, and she's going to be talking to us about being multiracial in America. So I'll go ahead and hand the reins over to Laura.
Hello, everyone. Glad to see you. I'm going to be talking today, as your instructor said, about being multiracial in America. I want to quickly go over my background of each side of my family just to kind of give you a little bit of where I come from and what sides I'm dealing with. So I wanted to start with a picture, because all I have is pictures for my slides. I just wanted to give you a little information and a little visuals about me and where I come from. And the first picture is going to be of where I grew up. And sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties here. It's not going. Oh, I know why. Sorry about this, folks. We're going to get this. Here we go. Okay. So this is actually the road that I grew up on. I'm originally from Huntington, West Virginia. And when I go over my background, I have to put in about the rural part, because being from rural West Virginia is definitely a culture all in its own. But also, just to give you a little background, on my father's side, my father was part Black, part Irish, and part Cherokee from the Native American tribes. My mom's side of the family is part English, part German, and I also believe part Cherokee, but I have not been able to prove that for sure. But so there's a lot of cultures, a lot of rituals, a lot of tradition in my family on both sides. So I'm going to go over a little bit of both sides and just kind of let you know how that went into forming who I am, my values, and how it went into forming my traditions and cultures as well. So the next slide that I have, I'm going to start with my father's side of the family. And so the next slide, if it will go. I'm not sure why it's giving me some problems. There we go. Okay, this is my dad. Actually, this is my dad when he was younger, of course. He is actually from the World War II generation. He was considerably older than my mom, but he grew up before civil rights. He grew up during the time of the Great Depression. So there's a lot of values that came from that. Also from the Black side of the family, we came from slaves. They came to West Virginia as free people. I'm not sure exactly where that came about. My father unfortunately passed away a little before I got interested in my family history, but I do know that they came to West Virginia as free people. Part of the way back, I'm not sure how many greats, but definitely one of my sets of great-grandparents was the first Black couple to be married in Huntington, West Virginia. So there's a little bit of history there. The road that I grew up on was actually named after my father's side of the family. It was called Johnson Heights. And so they were definitely prominent in that part of the city. It's on the outskirts of Huntington, actually. And they were pretty well known there. They were businessmen once they did away with the farm, because they started as farmers. They grew corn from the plantation that they bought, and so they grew corn. They were very into family. They were very into the land. They definitely had very strong ties to the land. And my feelings on that is, because they came from slaves, they didn't have much. So what they did have, they appreciated. The house that my father grew up in, you can see a little bit in this picture, and when I switch slides, you're going to see a little bit more of it. It was actually started as slave quarters. The living room side of it was a one-room slave quarter, and they built a two-story house from the slave quarters, and it was a beautiful house. It even had what I called a ballroom. It wasn't really lived in too much when I was younger, but when I went in, you could see an old player piano and a chandelier. It was very gorgeous in the ballroom, as I called it. And it had a winding staircase. It had a very huge dining room. because this is where the family gathered. They were very much family-oriented. They loved having their holidays and all of that with family kind of gathered around them. There was a one-room schoolhouse on the property that also doubled as a church. That's where my father got his education. Now, again, it was before civil rights, so he achieved a ninth grade education, which was very good for somebody of African-American heritage pre-civil rights in rural West Virginia. So he valued education. Even though he only achieved a ninth grade education, he was very well read and actually worked himself up to owning a business. So he had a very strong work ethic that came out of that culture as well. What they had, they worked for, and they worked very hard for it. And so he owned his own body shop and actually developed a word-of-mouth business, I guess, in the community, and had a lot of clients from the police stations and all of that. I'm going to show you a little bit more of him as well. There he is. If you look at the picture that's on your right, you're going to see him with some friends and family members. That's out in front of the house that I was speaking of. The one in the middle is just him standing in the front yard, and the one to the left is him in the backyard behind the house. So you can see from that it's definitely a rural type of community. There wasn't a whole lot there. The only thing that was there was basically houses where my dad's side of the family lived. So from this, you can kind of tell it's definitely a small town. If you've seen the movie We Are Marshall, that kind of gives you an idea of it because that was actually filmed in my hometown. So that is definitely the values that I grew up with, that he grew up with. And I'm going to tell you a little bit how they influenced me, but I kind of want to go through both sides of the family before I do that. But that's a little about him. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is actually my Aunt Laura, who I'm named after. And she is, I picked this picture because I love this. It shows the period dress. This was late 1800s, early 1900s. And this showed very much kind of their mentality. They wanted to show that they were, that they could fit in society, that they wanted to show that they were a part of society. And again, before civil rights, so this was before blacks were actually had a place in society, and before they could vote, before they could actually hold a lot of the jobs that their Caucasian counterparts could. So this was right after slavery, and they very much wanted to prove that they had a place in society as well as everyone else did. So I just love this picture because I love her dress, and you can tell the way she holds herself that she's very confident, and I love that. So this, I'm going to go over my mom's side of the family. This is on the left is my grandmother, she was a very hard woman. She grew up in rural West Virginia as well. It's Wayne County, West Virginia. If you ever want to look that up, you're going to see exactly how rural that is. Her family lived on top of this huge hill. I can't really call it a mountain because Huntington's not really in the mountainous areas, but they are huge hills, and you really couldn't tell the difference between it if you were to see it. And come wintertime, if you were on top of that mountain or that hill, you weren't getting down. So you may as well make your peace with it. And if you're down, you're not getting back up because it's pretty much a straight up shot. And if the snow's on and the ice is on, you're not getting anywhere. So they were farmers, excuse me. And so I know the traditional view of a farmer is that the men are outside plowing the fields while the women are inside cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids. Not so much real life. In real life, the farming community was more men and women out there in the fields equally doing equal amount of work, equal amount of parts. The kids were out there too. My mom's side of the family didn't really grow up with a whole lot of money, so they ate what they got off of the land, the animals that they took care of, the crops that they grew. That's pretty much what they ate. My grandmother also went to a one-room schoolhouse. I'm not honestly sure how far she got in the education system, but I don't think that she got the equivalent of a degree. However, she did work all of her life, just like my dad did.